Electricast.
There are people out there all across the country pushing boundaries to grow the game of golf. Like champion speed golfer Lauren Cupp, who plays faster than anyone else. And Will Lowry, whose work in the golf community inspires more kids to get into the game. As a champion partner of the Masters, Bank of America supports everyone determined to find out what's possible. In golf and in life. What would you like the power to do? Bank of America. Bank of America N.A. member FDIC, copyright 2025, Bank of America Corporation, all rights reserved.
The kids are still at practice, and I have no idea what's for dinner.
You can get a rotisserie chicken and 2 sides for just $15 in as fast as an hour with Walmart Express Delivery.
Who said that? Who's in my house? Don't play with me, because I'm not the one.
It's just your friendly Walmart announcer. This is a commercial.
Oh, okay. You were saying dinner for a family was just $15?
Yep, it'll be at your door by the time you get the kids home from practice. Order now. Welcome to your Walmart. Subject to availability, restrictions and fees apply.
Now that was a helpful commercial.
Welcome into Missing the Point. I'm your host, DK Sizzle, Dave Clark, back again with the weekly Power Rankings show. We're going to talk about Bob Kelly's Power Rankings, the kind of crazy, insane, ever-changing organism that lives inside the Missing the Point world. We always talk about how much parity there is this season in the NFL, and I think the rankings often reflect that. There's a lot of chopping and changing at the bottom, but also a lot of interesting things to talk about. With me today, I have Broadway Joe Malkin. No Bob Kelly because he's under the weather, so he's not here to defend himself, which is one of my favorite ways to do these shows. Filling in for him is the birthday boy, Craig D'Alessandro, usually our producer extraordinaire, but I asked him if he had one birthday wish in the whole wide world, what would it be? And he said to cure cancer. And I said, well, how about you can just be on the show instead? And we thought it was a fair compromise.
Close enough.
So here's Craig D'Alessandro and Joe Malkin to talk to me about a ever evolving but quite entertaining football season. And we're going to start right away with the power rankings. At number 10, we have, and just for the listeners at home, we are recording this during the Thursday night football game between the Baltimore Ravens and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we're kind of following along, but the context of this show won't really feature the result of that game. And it's not going to matter because neither of these teams are actually on the top 10, even though, they might be next week.
Which is kind of amazing.
It's kind of amazing. I mean, they might be next week. Like I said, the top 10 is an interesting one. And starting off with number 10, we have the Tennessee Titans, who I can't quite put my finger on, guys. Like, I think they have a good coach. I think we've all sort of seen what Vrabel can do as a head coach. I think he's got a good football brain. I think his guys play for him. But at very key positions, I don't think they're it. But they have a winning record, and they're kind of trucking right along. What do you guys think of the Tennessee Titans? They're at number 10 in Bobby's power rankings, Craig. Do you think that they're going to stay there? Do you think they're going to move up? Do you think they're going to move down? What do you make of this Tennessee Titans team?
I'm a believer that at least in the NFL, you're going to be as good as your quarterback can take you, and I still never will be a supporter of Ryan Tannehill. And I think he got away with a lot the last couple of years because A.J. Brown was still down there in Tennessee. But now he's gone. He's gone to a team we'll talk about, 50 minutes from now to give you some perspective. And so, luckily, they still have a great rushing attack with Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill can run. I don't think he's that much of a player anymore in that regard. They got good tight ends. They're beating good teams. Not really. Not really. They got blown out. They got blown out by the Bills. Beat the Raiders. Beat the Colts. Actually, they haven't beaten anybody, have they?
Not really.
I
mean, I think the Raiders are probably a lot more disappointing than we all thought they were going to be this season, considering some of the personnel. And this isn't an attack on you guys, but I think their head coach might be dumb. So,
I'm starting to look at that same thing.
When it's him versus Vrabel, and you can kind of sucker McDaniels into making bad decisions. I don't know if that says that much about the Titans. Also, to your point, Craig, that rushing game. You rely on a guy that like Derrick Henry, the way he runs, I feel like it's going to be a diminishing return as the season goes on once he gets more and more touches. So I think we're in agreement there. Joe, this Tennessee Titans team, I bet you're a fan, knowing you and knowing how you watch football, I bet you're a Mike Vrabel fan. I bet you're a fan of the system that they're implementing down there. But could you really hitch your wagon to a Tannehill-led Tennessee Titans team? Wow, that was a lot of good alliteration right there.
It really was. They're a mediocre, above average team. Like, they're going to middle. That's the kind of franchise they are. That's the kind of team it is. I think Vrabel is a good coach, and I completely agree with Craig that he would be better with a better quarterback.
Yeah.
We've really only ever seen him with Ryan Tannehill. So we don't really know what else he can do with a better quarterback. I think Ryan Tannehill's career was rejuvenated, and he's playing well. But again, you're hitching your wagon to a 6'4", 250-pound running back that is he's gonna diminish over time.
Coming off knee surgery too, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know really what else they have there. So I mean, this 4-2 record is great for them, but you're beating teams like the Raiders and the Colts. And I mean, the Colts just sat down the quarterback that they hired to basically who they thought was going to be the next coming of Phillip Rivers for them. And I think I'm with you on the Raiders now, DK. I think Josh McDaniels might just not be a good NFL head coach, and that says a lot about what John Gruden did his first couple years. He was winning games, though, wasn't he? He was winning games.
He was awful. He was the worst.
And I don't know why they didn't stick with the guy that they brought in last year, because I can't remember his name. But he
well, they fell victim to this idea that's been sort of permeating around the NFL for the last decade or however long it's been since McDaniels didn't really get enough time in Denver, that he's this wonderkind that, I mean, you can only be a wonderkind for so long. Eventually you're just fucking old. But I mean, that he's this sort of great football mind that when unleashed as a head coach is going to put together like the greatest football team anyone's ever seen, when in actuality, I think we saw a lot of his flaws already exposed as an offensive coordinator in New England. Like, no offense, and you don't have to go through this anymore, but I think the Cam Newton-led offense of the New England Patriots might be the worst offense I've ever seen. And Josh McDaniels, that came from the brain of Josh McDaniels. So, I mean, we're not going to sit here and talk about the Raiders all night, but I guess I will begrudgingly admit that John Gruden's a better head coach than Josh McDaniels on the resume.
There you go. All right,
but he's a bum-fucking idiot. So
clip that and put it on the interwebs, okay?
Look, it's not the most dynamic team to start out with in the power rankings, but I think they do deserve to be there. I think that there's a lot of discussion that could be had honorable mention wise for number 10. I think there's teams that are like we said, like a lot of parity, like after the top three, and we're probably going to do the top three like we usually do, group them together at the end and kind of talking about who's poking their head out in this 3-horse race. But apart from the top three, there's not a ton of drop off. I don't think any team could beat any team, which I think for the neutral, which both of us sort of are, all of us sort of are, because neither of our teams are that good. But I don't know. We'll see about the Bears. We'll see. Beat Dallas, and I'm going to be so insufferable. But yeah, I think that parity is making this season pretty entertaining, but also a little bit difficult to figure out. Bobby's got a tough job this year. A little bit difficult to figure out who is the top 10 best teams, and the lower you get in the numbers, you can probably tell me the best three and the worst three, but everyone in the middle could beat anybody else on their day. So as much as the Tennessee Titans might not be box office to talk about, I don't think that they don't deserve to be there. And I am keeping my eye on them because they could end up with a winning record. Like it could happen. They're going to lose to the Chiefs. They still have to play the Chiefs, but a lot of those other games are still for grabs for them. I agree that Tannehill's not the guy, but could you draw some parity with the Giants and what Dable's done over there? I mean, you have a great running back, a mediocre quarterback, and you just figured out a system to get the best out of both of them while keeping them healthy. And you sort of rely on your defense to win you games. And I think that's, or your front 70 at least, if not your entire defense and special teams. But I think could be a model. I'm not saying the Giants, and we'll talk about them a little bit later, are going to go to the Super Bowl and win anything with DJ at QB. But I think that they can get themselves to a certain place in order to make themselves a valuable team that players want to come play for and sort of escalate their stock. And I think the Titans are trying to do that, but maybe in a little bit of a different way. And maybe their quarterback's even more limited than Daniel Jones.
I think he's definitely more limited, Tannehill is, than Daniel Jones. I'm not going to tell you that Daniel Jones is a better NFL quarterback than Ryan Tannehill right now.
Yeah, it's 6 and 1, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're talking about mediocre at best.
One's playing better though. One's playing better than the
other. But that could be a testament to the coaches. I mean, is Brian Dable that good of an offensive mind? Because he made a very undynamic looking Giants team from last year look very dynamic, whereas you just said it a couple minutes ago, the Tennessee Titans just aren't dynamic. It's just not their style of football. They're a more shove it down your throat type of football team, where the Giants, I mean, I think one of the best things that Daniel Jones does is run the football. Like, honestly, he has these big runs, he finds space, and he's still doing that with a completely new offense put in place. So I think that allows them to be a better team. Then I think they will be a better. Well, they are clearly a better team than the Titans. They're halfway up the list. But I think you're spot on. Tennessee's not dynamic. Dable might be a better coach than Mike Vrabel. I think we got to give it more than 7 games. But
yeah, I mean, that might be a reactionary thing going on, and I'm sure we'll be participatory in that when we get to number 5 in the power rankings with the whole New York. The whole of New York, essentially. What's going on?
I know
there.
This is wild. That might be the most wild part of this entire time.
Yeah. I mean, at least thankfully the Yankees came up short, but so New York are all over the football map right now. So there's that. Moving on to number 9, and the biggest disappointment of the season for me, easily, is that these Los Angeles Chargers. I really did believe in the numbers that Herbert had coming in. To me, it looked like he was gearing up, ready to have a breakout MVP style year. You know, you saw stats like the only guy who's got more yards per completion is Pat Mahomes. You gave him the old eye test, and you saw a guy that was so pro ready when he came in, and he was just getting better and better. And not to say that he's like a massive disappointment, or he's like a bad QB or anything like that. I just think that he's hit a little bit of a slump coming into this year. I think we're talking about dynamism in the offense. That's definitely lacking. You can say Keenan Allen's been hurt for most of the year, but I think we're agreed that you got to, if you're Justin Herbert and you want to be the guy that everyone seems to think you are, you got to be able to do it without Keenan Allen. Now they are 4-3. It's nothing to sniff at, but it's been a difficult 4-3. It hasn't been anything to write home about. So where do you see this Chargers team going from here? I think there's some parity between them and the Bengals, the way that both teams look like they could break out in either direction. It seems the Bengals, we'll come on to talk about that. It seems the Bengals have broken out in the correct direction. Joe Burrow kind of finding his own. Becoming the guy that he was at the end of last season and into the playoffs and in the Super Bowl, quite frankly, despite fearing for his life for the entire time. The worst offensive line in the history of the Super Bowl, playing the best defensive line, one of the best defensive lines. But I think the Chargers got to shit or get off the pot at this point, right? They got to decide what kind of team they are and if they want to actually have a dynamic offense and the defense that was on paper coming into this season.
Well, the defense hasn't been awful. I think they've lacked on offense. And Keenan Allen's been hurt, but Keenan Allen's been hurt most of his career. I mean, he just can't stay on the field. Austin Eckler has had injury problems here and there.
He's still great, though. I mean, he's sort of saving them right now.
Sure, without a doubt. I would say he's a top 7 back in the league, top 10 at the worst. Yeah, it's a good football team. They're 4-3. They play in what we thought was going to be a tough division, but clearly that hasn't happened. Really, they only have one team to compete with out there in Kansas City. They'll be fine, but I agree with you. They need to find that dynamism. I don't think Brandon Staley is the best coach, and you just kind of compared them to one of the next teams we're going to talk about in the Bengals. I mean, I had Zach Taylor out in 2020. I was like, he's gone. And then, then he went to a Super Bowl, and I think he ended up being a pretty good coach. He's in his 3rd year now. They're still playing well there in Cincinnati. Brandon Staley, I don't know. And this is kind of the coach's theme here right now that's kind of jumped in, and it'll continue with the next few guys too. But yeah, I think the Chargers need weapons. I think they need to go out and get him more weapons. I just don't think he has enough to throw to. I don't know if he's a guy that's going to make his receivers around him better. I think Mike Williams is a very good wide receiver. I think he's got Austin Eckler out of the backfield. He just needs more weapons and to be able to spread the field, and the defense will be fine.
Yeah. I wonder if we can even make this comparison down too. It's definitely not as big of a loss as Chase going down for the Bengals, but Mike Williams, it looks like the quote was weeks, not days for him. Yep. With the injury problems in the receiving core for Justin Herbert, I wonder if this is a make or break moment for him, though. If he can sort of help alongside the coaching staff, and like you said, I don't have a ton of faith in that coaching staff after these games. I think a lot of the mistakes that they're making seem to come directly from what would normally come from the coaching staff. The communication doesn't seem there. But I wonder if Herbert can sort of just grab his balls a little bit and start making things happen with the guys he has, because I think that's something we've seen all what we consider the greats to be able to do. Now, it's asking a lot of him early on in his career, but Tom Brady had years, and look, I know that a lot of times any football show becomes the Tom Brady hour, but Tom Brady had years where there were guys that your most avid college football fan had never heard of coming into his team from the draft that he made into legitimate wide receivers because of how he threw the ball. Aaron Rodgers, as much as I fucking hate him, has never really had a bunch of first round picks around him in his receiving core, but he's been able to make guys look good. If Joe Montana didn't have Jerry Rice, the greatest wide receiver of all time, I defy, other than Dwight Clark, I defy people to name a bunch of his wide receivers this far removed. If you're of our generation, I can do it. That's only because I fucking really liked the 80s 49ers. As a,
the 80s 49ers, that was a great time for football.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't alive, but coming into my football fandom and sort of doing the history reading part of it, I really enjoyed their highlights. I really enjoyed Joe Montana as a guy and as a representative of the game. And also sort of, not to go off on a tangent, but sort of the dichotomy of him being a Notre Dame, like All-American, and coming in and being that dude in the NFL and that being the prototype of a quarterback, and then to change that sort of in the modern era as the undrafted guy that no one's heard of, that has like the kind of pathetic combine to come in and be the GOAT. I like that split. But, and the whole storyline with him and Steve Young going on to be one of the best and all this stuff with those guys. But regardless, if there are quarterbacks in history that we consider the greats where their wide receivers made them look good, but usually it's the quarterback coming in and telling us, I'm that dude, and it doesn't matter who I'm throwing to because I'm hitting him in the fucking hands and I got this offense worked out. I would challenge Justin Herbert to go do that. I think he's got more than just not having receivers as an obstacle. I think he's got having a little bit of a fumbling, bumbling coaching staff around him too. So I wouldn't say it's his fault necessarily. That's just sort of, the eye test of what I've seen. It doesn't really seem like their communication's there. But that's true of a lot of teams this year, to be quite honest with you. I think it's sort of a weird theme that's emerged. So maybe we don't 100% blame the Chargers on that. But we sort of alluded to number 8 on these power rankings. That is the former Super Bowl challengers, the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals. Seems like they might have a little bit of a resurgence in him. Joe Burrow looking like a fucking stud out there last week. I don't have his stats in front of me, but they were outrageous. Joe, what do you think? Your namesake here in the middle of America. Do they come back? Do they still have too many holes? What's going on with these Bengals?
Well, we found out Thursday that they lost Jamar Chase for 4 to 6 weeks, possibly more.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, that's massive. I mean, I don't want to call him a binky. I just think him and Burrow have such a great relationship.
Yeah, some of the greatest chemistry I've ever seen out of the gate. Wide receiver and a quarterback, which for obvious reasons, they played together at LSU. But I think that it's so hard to translate that through the NFL. They did it so successfully, and it's awesome. It's
amazing because you think of some of the best, quarterback wide receiver tandems ever. Marvin Harrison. Well, you had one. Joe Montana, Steve Young with Jerry Rice. You had Brady and Gronk, of course, as a tight end. And then
he was a receiver. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he was a receiver. You had Peyton and Marvin Harrison. So
I would say the more accurate. Honestly, I know that they didn't win the Super Bowl, but the more accurate kind of partnership were probably Brady and Moss. Like single season is probably the best.
Yeah, sure. I would say Jamar Chase is more closely. Talent-wise, closer to Durant Moss than he is to anybody else. No, I like this Bengals team. I still think their offensive line is terrible, but they still have some
which
good
is wild.
weapons.
Which is wild.
And
go get some fucking linemen, dude.
They improved their offensive line, and it's still the worst offensive line in football. And Joe Burrow is still trying to, and he's still doing what he's doing, which blows my mind. The kid's the real deal. Number one, Zach Taylor's a good NFL head coach. Again, 2 years ago I had him fired. And now I think he's an actual good NFL head coach. He's doing a lot with a very young team. Burrow still has options, and that defense is still pretty good. Sure, they're 4-3. We're only 7 games in, and it sounds so funny because they only added 1 game to the NFL season last year, but it feels like they added more. Like 17 games for some reason feels like so much more than 16.
Right.
They're one of those teams that will be just fine. I think they can find their way through this middle of the season without Chase, get him healthy, come back. The Ravens have been playing well. The Browns are not a good football team, and the Steelers don't look great. So I think they're going to be all right in that division.
Yeah. Do you think Cleveland's going to get better when Deshaun gets there in Week 11?
I fucking hope not. That guy sucks.
I think that organization. I think we have the obvious bad owners in football, the Dan Snyders, the Cal McNairs of the world. I think
You're invited on the podcast whenever you want to come on. Open invitation. Would love to have you.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Would love to have you.
Who's the owner of the Browns whose name is slipped? He's one of the worst owners in football. He's one of the worst owners in sports, and he blew up his team. And now, again, I know we're talking about the Bengals, but now we're on the AFC North. And Craig asked the question, are they going to get better? No, they're not. They're a bad organization. They keep shooting themselves in the foot. And while Baker Mayfield is not Tom Brady, he's also not Trent Dilfer. But one thing that Trent Dilfer does have that Baker Mayfield will never have is a Super Bowl ring. And I think that if the Cleveland Browns, and this sounds very like Gen Z, like if they treated him better, but if they treated him better and they actually gave him and they continued to grow the franchise around him, the team would have been fine. And,
I don't know about that. I don't know
screwed
about that.
up.
I feel like Baker Mayfield's exactly who you think he is when it comes to talent. I feel like he talked a big game. I feel like Joe Burrow came in and became
great commercials though.
He was talking about being he was all fucking talk, like he was all lip service. He didn't actually make any moves. He had fucking Nick Chubb running for him, who's an absolute fucking beast, probably the best red zone running back of all time. This is a guy that had everything that he needed to be successful, to be quite honest with you, and
except for a competent owner and a good head coach.
Maybe, but I mean, he had talent, and as far as I say, I hope not, was as far as what's his knuckles, the fucking sexual assaulter coming back into fucking, I mean, not to say I won't pick him up for fantasy just to see how he's doing, but
I already got him.
Great. Craig's doing a fantasy season where he's just like, I'm going to stash everyone. D-Hop.
All these guys that are suspended and retired.
The second half of the season is going to be great. But here's the thing. Like, I think that he's probably going to come in and be the best quarterback the Browns have ever fucking had. You know what I mean? Like, that's probably what's going to happen because talent-wise, he is. Now,
I think it's where careers go to die. I think
you might be right. I'm not saying he's going to win a Super Bowl there, but like, damn, man, like that dude was not too long ago in the scope of our lives. That dude was up on the fucking Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship game. Like,
yeah, he is an above average to great quarterback. He is a below average to despicable human being, and
he's a piece of shit. But I mean, he's very fucking talented. I mean, how many people do we say that about here in this sports podcast?
Yeah, right.
I don't know. Can you separate the dance from the dancer? I don't know. You fucking tell me. I hope he doesn't succeed. I hope that the city of Cleveland never succeeds. And I mean that both in a sporting sense and I just think Columbus, Ohio, forever. Just absorb all the good parts of Cleveland. No, I mean, obviously, I hope the best for the people of Cleveland, but I hope their sports teams lose forever. So,
but also, how about the Cincinnati Bengals?
Yeah, right. I mean, look, well, it's the Bengals are another team, which is a lot of what makes this football season difficult to talk about. It's a remains to be seen team. I mean, we need another few weeks. I thought we'd have everything figured out by now. I've been saying this on the power ranking shows for the past 3-4 fucking weeks. I thought we'd have everything figured out by now, but realistically, it's still a wait and see. There's too much parity. There's too many weird teams, and a lot of injuries need to sort themselves out. So we'll just have to see where we are. Speaking of injuries, the next team on the list we have is the New York Jets. I think deserving of the number 7 spot in the power rankings, quite frankly, because of their play, the teams they've beat, which I'm always harping on Bobby to factor in strength of schedule more on these power rankings, because a lot of times it's like, that team's 6-0, and it's like, well, who are they beating? Oh, they beat the fucking bad news Bears. Like nobody gives a shit about the teams they beat. Now the Jets, they went out and beat the Green Bay Packers. For whatever you have an opinion on their season, Aaron Rodgers is everybody's fucking darling, ayahuasca or ayahuasca. So at the end of the day, that's a good win. I really liked Sauce Gardner walking around with the cheese head. But Breece Hall's hurt now, and there's some other injuries that look like they're going to be season ending. Where do you say, for me, I won't bury the lead here. For me, if any of these kind of high record unexpected teams are going to drop off, for me it's going to be the Jets. Injuries, their personnel in general, with like what I thought they were going to achieve coming into the season. But there's some other teams on this list we might come to where that might be your guys' opinion. So Craig, I'll start with you. What do you think of this New York Jets team? Unbiasedly, I understand that they're in your division. They are a representative of the city of New York, but if you can try to put your sort of unbiased hat on for this New York Jets team, where do you think they're going to go, up or down on this power ranking?
No, I think the Jets right now are probably the, I don't know, second, third best team in the AFC East right now, which is something considering 3 out of the 4 teams in the AFC East.
And you guys
right
are
now
playing this upcoming week, yes? This game week? Yeah.
Playing them at 1:00 on
That'll tell us
Sunday.
a lot, I think.
It will, but as far as the Jets go, I like this Jets team. I've always liked the Jets. I don't have this bitter hatred of the Jets that some Patriots fans do. And for good reason, they're a good team now. Bryce Hall was having such a good season. It sucks he went down. He was having a great rookie year. They just brought in, who is it? James Robinson.
James
Robinson also, he seems to be, he's fitting in. The locker room talk seems good.
They also lost a big offensive lineman this week. But their defense, man, they have such a good defensive line, and their secondary is second to none right now. They had a great offseason. I can't even come close to denying that. So they're going to be in it. I think maybe the Patriots squeak by them this week, but I don't know, man. I think they're going to be in it for the AFC East as long as Zach Wilson stays healthy for a while.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. I'll redirect to Joe. I think the issue they have is that they're in the AFC East, right? Because they're not gonna beat, nor will they surpass the record of the Buffalo Bills. So they're not winning that division. So best they can hope for is, the essentially the playoffs or the rest of the league, the rest of the AFC to take pity on them record wise, which they're going in the right direction. Don't get me wrong. We'll definitely see them play the first week of the playoffs, but if they get in, we'll definitely see them play week 1. But will they get in, Joe?
Yeah, I think they will. I think they're the real deal. I don't think they're going to fall too far in the top 10. I think they'll remain there the rest of the season. Breece Hall going down was huge, but then for them to have the mind to go out and make that big of a move to bring in James Robinson, who I'm sure is happy.
That was smart. That was a smart move.
Yeah, to leave Jacksonville and go to New York. I mean, in other seasons we'd be like, well, there's a lateral move.
Right.
But this year, I mean, Craig, you said it about the defense. Robert Saleh has always put together good defenses. He did it in San Francisco. It's the reason why everybody keeps saying, "No, Jimmy G, the defense got you to the Super Bowl." Great, good, because now he's got the New York freaking Jets at 5-2 in Week 8 of the NFL season. And ever since he came out and was like, "I'm keeping receipts on people talking shit about the Jets," I don't think they've lost. So basically, he's a motivating guy. He clearly has his guys playing well for him. Zach Wilson looks like an actual NFL quarterback. They got him some weapons in the offseason. I don't think the loss of Breece Hall is going to hurt that team very much.
Well, Michael Carter's a good running back, dude. Like he's
absolutely.
I don't think he's Breece Hall, but I think he's a good running back. I think he's going to come in and I think at least alleviate some of the damage, because it's not as if they were relying on him to be Saquon Barkley in the first place. He was having a great season, don't get me wrong, but we talk about this all the time with running backs. Like, it's really difficult to tell unless you replace the running back how much of it is the offensive line, how much of it is the scheme, how much of it is that they're afraid of the quarterback, which I'm not 100% convinced that that's the case in New York for either New York team, to be honest with you. But I think Michael Carter can come in and be a serviceable substitute. I wouldn't be wholly shocked. What about you?
No, I wouldn't be.
You can also run on the Patriots, as we learned last week.
Well, I was just going to say this week is a big test, and I say this unbiasedly, and I say this because Patriots teams have beat the Jets the last 12 times in the regular season.
Barack Obama was still in office.
When Obama was still in office. Now, granted, they
Those
lost
are the days. 2
years in a row in the playoffs, but no, I think this is a very telling week for the New York Jets as a football team. They're going up against a divisional opponent that they haven't beaten in a very long time. They do have a few injuries. The Patriots are probably going to be a little pissed off after their blowout loss to the Chicago Bears.
Would you call that a blowout?
I would. I think it was.
I just wanted to hear you say it again.
Nope, it's an absolute shellacking. It was an absolute shellacking, Dave. And I it was so funny because I was like, oh yeah, I literally had that. I was like, oh yeah, Dave's a Bears fan, and it had just been so busy, and I'm like sitting in the stands watching the game, and no, it was an absolute shellacking. And
well, the point I made since we're about to move on to the Minnesota Vikings, and I think this is a good segue. The point I made about that game is I think you guys might have just caught us on the worst possible week to catch this team. Like, I'm not saying we're going to go on. The Bears are going to go on to win the Super Bowl or maybe even make the playoffs. But I think there's been a lot of almost games for us. It's not as if we've been losing badly to teams. It's just been like, oh, we're there, we're in the game, which is, I think, with a young team should be the philosophy. It's like, just stay in the game and like give yourself a chance to win. And the ball was just like never in Fields' hands to win. And when it was, like, people were letting him down. So once it was, and once he was like trusted more, and that was clear what happened with the Patriots, it was like, let's just lose or win on Justin Fields. Like, let's let it happen. And that dude is fucking dynamic. Like,
he had an outstanding game. That That might
And
have been his best game as a professional football player.
Easily, not even close. It's like easily his best game. And I think that what you can do now, what you can draw from that game is you can say, okay, and we're coming on to talk about the Minnesota Vikings. This is where I talk about this. Okay, is that division really locked up? Because the Packers don't look that good. The Packers don't look that fucking good. The Minnesota Vikings, I think there's a little air in that record. I really do. I think there's a little air in there, not a lot of meat. I think there's a world in which we maybe catch up to these fuckers. You know, the season is young. I mean, I don't want to get completely out of hand. I don't want to be Bobby when the Cowboys win a game by 2 points. But I think, we're coming in to play Dallas this Sunday, and if we put on that same performance, win or lose, if we come close, there's a lot to take from it. And all I would ask of Justin Fields if I was showing him game tape this week is, when you start to run, once the play broke down, when you waited until the last possible second, when they thought they had you, that's when the big things happened. When you were patient, when he broke off, when he went buck, and the play's broken down and he started running, not so much. So patience, he's the most sacked quarterback in the league right now. Like, that's just the case. So it's tough to ask patience of a guy like that. But I'm looking at this Vikings team
But before we move on to that, I kind of want to relay that back to my final point on the Jets, because so I look at the game that Justin Fields had.
Yeah, they are similar. Their offenses are sort of built similarly.
But Eberflus put together a really nice game plan against the Patriots. He outcoached Bill Belichick on Monday night. Like, that's plain and simple. Justin Fields played the best game of his career. Eberflus outcoached him, and he exposed the defense. Whether it was good or bad, he exposed the defense to the entire NFL for the New England Patriots. And I think that comes back to the New York Jets, where they are similar offensively, the Jets and the Bears. But also, now you get the Patriots on a little bit of a short week. Some guys are banged up. There's been some trade talks. You kind of put yourself into a situation with a quarterback controversy. This is a huge game for the Jets. If the Patriots come out and win this and put the Jets to 5-3, I might have some more questions about it next week. But if the Jets go out and beat the Patriots, the Jets are the real deal. And I'm not saying that because I think the Patriots are
there's
good.
A game plan there for them to use.
Right, without a doubt. Exactly. And I think if they use that and they execute that the right way, they beat New England, they knock New England down another peg, and they keep climbing up the ranks in the AFC East, and they're a good football team. And that's I know you guys, they did the NFL show already this week, but I would have the Jets beating the Patriots this week in the Meadowlands.
Yeah, I mean, they are at home, they are steaming, but the Patriots are a hit dog. Like, they're gonna be pissed off. I mean, you never want to play Bill Belichick when his back's against the wall. So, moving on now to the Minnesota Vikings, and like I said, I think there's a little air in that tire. Craig, talk to me about what you think from your perspective. I'm pretty biased. I never think the Vikings are good. I think for me, I've watched the Vikings have better records than they deserve since I was 9 years old. To be perfectly honest with you, that's how I feel about them. I think Kirk Cousins, a wee lad. Yeah, I think Kirk Cousins in primetime is a safe bet to always fail. I think all playoff games are in prime time, and maybe not the traditional time slot, but they're under the lights, and he's under the microscope. So I just don't see him doing anything. But I mean, can you make an argument the other direction? And if you wouldn't mind, tell me how hopeful I should be that the Bears might be able to catch them after last week's performance.
Well, the defense played like they did against the Patriots this last week. I would be rather encouraged, because let's be real, the only thing that's keeping the Vikings back from being, higher on this power rankings is the fact that Kirk Cousins doesn't do anything good other than being a competent passer. He's the one thing holding this team back from being on the upper echelon of the NFL right now. If you ask me if I had to pick what team I felt had the most dynamic playmakers or best combined team, it would probably be the Vikings. They have Dalvin Cook, who's one of the best running backs in the NFL. Justin Jefferson, who I think is the best wide receiver in the NFL. Adam Thielen, 5 years ago, was the best wide receiver in the NFL. They have Irv Smith at tight end.
I would make an argument for Cooper Kupp still, but I hear what you're saying.
Arguably. Let's put it.
Yeah, but he's up there. He's there. Yeah. He's right there.
Irv Smith has been a competent tight end, and there aren't that many good tight ends in the NFL. And their defense has been out there too. The only thing keeping them back is Kirk Cousins. When Kirk Cousins is under the lights, he melts like Donald Trump in that one video where he just hates it. He's like, "Turn those lights off. I don't like them." But when it's 1 o'clock or when it's 4 o'clock or earlier, when it's not in prime time, when the focus is not on him, he lights people up. He doesn't do anything good, but he doesn't do anything bad enough to put the Vikings in a position to lose.
Yeah, but I mean, he can lose you games in prime time.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, he will fuck up. Like, and that's, I think, the issue. It's like you can't be the best wide receiver in the NFL if the service isn't good. The ball doesn't start in your hands. The ball starts in someone else's hands. And if it starts in the hands of a guy who's almost certainly going to fuck up when it matters the most, you're not feeling great. And I think that all these guys are looking at him and being like, well, that's our leader, that's our guy. And I think you're trying to believe in him, but they know too, so unless Kirk Cousins can fucking turn that shit around, I just don't see it. And I think there's a good chance we catch him. Joe, what do you think about this Vikings team?
But there is a thing with the Vikings. Their offense is just so dynamic. You can just huck it down the field and someone's going to catch it.
Yeah, you would think that, but I mean, it's like literally never worked when it matters. Like it works, like you said, it works at 10 a.m. I mean, it's my time, 10 a.m. on a Sunday, but it doesn't necessarily work on Sunday night. And I think that says more than the time slot. That says, do you grow when it matters most? Do you rise to the occasion, or do you shrink like a violet under the light? And I think that that's what we've seen about Kirk Cousins. Now, I'm not saying he can't go on to prove me wrong. But it wouldn't really be proving me wrong, because what I'm saying is, and what you're saying is based on the empirical evidence we have in our hands right now. So he can change the narrative. He can change that evidence because he's got more games to start in the NFL. But this is what it is right now. This is the truth of the situation. So how do you believe in the Minnesota Vikings? Joe, put yourself in a position where you have to talk yourself into the Minnesota Vikings. You have to do it.
Oh, I've already done it, and you don't need to force me. I think the Minnesota Vikings will win the NFC North. I think they'll stay in the top.
Thanks
10.
a lot, man.
And here you go. And I'll give you a few reasons why. Cardinals, Commanders, Bills, Cowboys, Patriots, Jets, Lions, Colts, Giants, Packers, Bears. That's the rest of their schedule. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 losses left on there. I have them losing to the Bills, the Patriots only because it's in prime time on Thanksgiving.
Sure.
The Jets because I think they're a better team, and the Giants because I think they're a better team. I think they can beat the Packers. I think they can beat the Bears. They should beat the Colts and the Lions. And
are you also saying at the same time that the Minnesota Vikings are going to be the weakest team with a bye week going into the playoffs?
No. Well, weakest team with a bye week. I mean, we're talking about only 2 teams. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't necessarily believe that they will be the number 1 seed in the NFC because, again, there's only 1 bye week. Now
they might be with that record that you just gave them. I mean,
well, I know, but I mean, let's get up to the Giants, the Cowboys, and the Eagles I'll big market tease on where they are here and possibly in the top 10. So, I mean, I just think that the Vikings defense,
but I mean, I guess my point is, you're saying these are the losses I see for them. The wins are not, you're basically saying every good team they come up against, they're gonna lose to. So
no,
that doesn't
I don't
fill me with a
I don't
ton
think
of
every
confidence.
good team. I have them beating the Cowboys.
That might be because the Cowboys are
no,
able to lose
it has nothing to do with that. I mean, it has nothing to do with having a Cowboys fan on the podcast or
I don't have them beating the Cowboys, to be honest with you.
I know, but I do, and so just to prove my point that I don't have them losing to every good football team. I think the Vikings are a good football team. I think their defense is good, and I think if Kevin O'Connell can prove that he can coach in the NFL, they'll be fine. Do I think that Kirk Cousins is going to win them a Super Bowl? No. Do I think they're going to be?
Well, then what are they doing?
They're going to be one of the weaker teams going into the playoffs.
Well, that's my point, though. What are they doing?
They're not going to be the number 1 seed, so they could get bounced in the first round.
Yeah, but like, then what are you doing? Like, if you're sitting there talking yourself, and they're either talking themselves into Kirk Cousins, or they know
they've already talked themselves into Kirk Cousins. If they weren't, they would have done something else with him.
I hope that remains the case for all eternity. I hope he lives forever. So
no, I do too, because I hope that happens for you, so that when he's 60 and he's still the quarterback in the Minnesota, you just don't see. This is where your bias is showing. So
yeah, of course, I'm not trying to hide it.
So let's not be biased.
No, but also, I just think I genuinely think that, like, this is the issue when you're talking about your divisional teams, and you guys run into this when you talk about the Bills and the Jets and the Dolphins. Yes, I'm biased. Yes, I hate them. Also, I watch them more than everybody. right? So there's
Well, you
also
just told
things-
us to not be biased, and Craig told you that he doesn't hate the Jets.
Yeah, but that's not my point. My point is, yes, of course I have a bias against them. Yes, of course I want them to fail, but that doesn't mean that I don't watch them enough to not know empirically whether or not they're good or bad. Like I know when the Packers are good. I know when they're going to win the NFC North, which is fucking always. But
So what do
maybe
you
not
think of
this
the
year.
Vikings then?
I genuinely think they're still sort of phonies. Like I think that like as much as they're good in those skill positions, yes, the Kirk Cousins conversation we've had to death at this point, but also like I just think that they like the Bears almost came back against them, and it was the Bears that shot themselves in the foot to have that comeback. You can't be letting that happen if you're going to be like one of the 6 best teams according to these power rankings in the NFL. You just can't be letting that happen.
But one of the 6 best teams in week 8. We're not talking about one of the 6 best teams in week 17.
But we are though, because like we're talking about one of the 6 best teams as of right now in the NFL.
Sure.
That's the context of the conversation. So what do I think of the Vikings as of right now? I don't think they're one of the 6 best teams in the NFL. I don't think they're going to remain in the top 6 to 8 best teams in the NFL. But I do think that they flatter to deceive. I think that they put on a great show every season for like what they're going to be. I think, you know why I think people are always high on them? Because I think you can get 4 to 5 guys out of the Vikings that appear in fantasy football leagues that hurt you or help you. And I think that's why people are always fucking high on the Vikings, because they operate from a perspective of fantasy football. Not to say that I don't, not to say that I don't know a shitload more about the Chargers because I drafted Justin Herbert and Mike Williams, if you couldn't tell from our Chargers section of this fucking podcast. But that I think is what the Vikings are. I think they're a fantasy football team. They're fucking imaginary. So I mean, this is a great little marker post. I'm glad we had this conversation, to be totally honest with you, because this is a great marker post from this point forward. This is the week where it's do or die, get good or get bad. Teams are going to have to start winning and teams are going to have to start losing. Not everybody can be fucking 8-9 or 9-8, you know, so that's just not how the math's going to shake out. So I think we look at this Minnesota Vikings team. I think you have a very good point and a very clear perspective on the idea that they have a ton of skilled players. I think that Craig has a very good point, a very clear perspective on the fact that they maybe have, you know, players at the top of their position, but their quarterback might let them down. Yeah. And what I'm telling you is this might be the week to figure it out. We don't know the answer, but I'm glad we had the conversation so we can mark this in the post and say, you know, either you were right or I was right. And I hope I'm right because I think I'm more of a fucking emotional horse in the race, but like, whatever. It's what it is.
We can't tell. None of us can tell by the way you're jittering and scratching your neck as you're talking about
Listen, here's the thing. I agree with you that they have studs all over the field. I really do.
Sure. But at the most important position on the field, they don't.
I'm glad they bought the best paint in the store, but if you don't have a good painter, all that is a color. So moving on from the lovely Minnesota Vikings, let's talk about the New York Giants for a second. A team, I'm sure, when you win 5, the 2 heartbreaking Super Bowl losses probably don't haunt you too badly. But since the theme of bias has emerged here, has it been hard for you, Craig, to look at the New York Giants sort of emerge when you thought they were going to be shitty this season, or can you look at them now as a team, much like you said about the Jets, that great, I like this team, I like the coach, I like what they're doing, I like Saquon Barkley, even though I traded him to Dave. Like what? How do you feel?
Well, Saquon Barkley is a huge reason why I like, obviously a great reason why I like them. Other than that, I don't know how that's going to go for them moving forward. We'll see how it goes. Of course, he's been injured. So, pretty much the only difference I see between this Giants team and the previous ones is brand new coaching staff, and Saquon Barkley's actually healthy. I'm not going to lie to you and sit here. I don't know a lot about the Giants.
I think they're keeping him healthy, though, right? Like, I think the way they're using him is a little bit more responsible.
I think he's where he has been in the past, and that's one of the most dominant running backs in the league. And that's going to be enough to keep them on pace on there in the entire season. Their upcoming schedule is not that difficult, so I think they're going to be in it for a good chunk of the season. But when it comes to crunch time and it comes down to which quarterback is better, the questions are going to be there. And if Saquon Barkley isn't going to be able to do it, and I don't think in this NFL, if your best player is a running back, you're really going to go far. And
that's always been true, right? I think we sort of have that as a truism on this show at this point.
And
I do think
with Daniel Jones, there was talk coming into the season that he was going to be a bust, and now he's not playing particularly well, but his team is what they are.
He's winning football games.
Yeah.
It's I don't think you have quite as much of a body of work to criticize him as you do like the Kirk Cousins of the world, where you could say he's winning football games where you know when he's going to stop. But look at this New York Giants team and look at who's number 4, Joe, on the power rankings. And could you not see the Giants and the Cowboys meeting in the first or second round and the Cowboys fucking losing? I mean, you could see it, right? Like this is a New York Giants team that's like it's built to win football games. It's built to win good football games against good teams. And I think that they're the team on this list that maybe I didn't expect to be talking about at this point. But they're the team on this list where I could see them winning a couple of games in the postseason based on how they're playing. What do you think of this Giants team? I know you're big on head coaches, so
I am. Well,
here's where we are with it.
Brian Daboll has proven himself as a very good defensive coordinator in the NFL, and he is one of. I don't want to say he's in short company. He's in a small group of head coaches that have been this successful with a relatively bad football team right away. He's made Daniel Jones look like a serviceable NFL quarterback. Somehow Saquon Barkley is staying healthy. I think Elijah Moore for the New York Jets and Kadarius Toney of the New York Giants, or now of the Kansas City Chiefs, I think they might live together, and there's something in the water in their building, because those two guys came out and started complaining about playing time and injuries and how they've been being handled. And it's like, boys, at some point, like, you got to just, stop the yapping, and you're on good football teams that haven't been good in a very long time. Of course, the Giants have been good more recently than the Jets, but you're on very good football teams right now. This New York Giants team is the real deal. But Dave, as you just said, their handicap is going to be the fact that they are currently playing in the best division in football, save for the Commanders, who are not, they're not awful, but they're not a good football team. Like,
they're awful.
I don't think they're awful. There's worse teams in the NFL than the Washington Commanders, but they're not the reason why this AFC East is the best. It's why, number 4, and then another team that may or may not be above them. Yeah, like Craig said, their schedule right now doesn't look too bad, but they do still have to play the Eagles and the Cowboys. So I mean, let's see
2 L's. That's probably 2 L's to me, to be honest with you. The way the Cowboys have been playing, the way the Eagles have been playing, but if they're going to win either of those games, they're probably going to beat the Cowboys. I don't see them handing the Eagles their first loss, but I like to see. We'll talk about this when we get on the Eagles, but I would like to see the Eagles tested. I'm not sure how tested they've been. You can't take away an undefeated record. You can only play what teams are put in front of you, but it's not as if they've had the kind of game where the Chiefs and the Bills had to beat each other up for in a game in prime time. You know what I mean? So I want to see the Giants go and test the Eagles, and I think we'll know a lot more about both teams once that happens. But to me, that the Giants and the Cowboys being neck and neck in this power ranking says a lot, because they're very similar. They're in very similar positions. Much as we might have expected more from one than the other, Craig. They're sort of on a precipice in their season. They share a division, and they could go either way. So, like, if you were to take either the Cowboys or the Giants and ride with one of these teams for the rest of the season, who would it be?
Right now, I would ride on that saddle and get on the Cowboys really quickly, because they have championship worthy.
Don't say it.
No. Championship worthy defense is the word I was going to say.
They do. Their defense is elite.
It's so good. And the Giants did. The Cowboys did exactly what the Patriots should have done with the Mac Jones quarterback situation. Dak Prescott got hurt.
Yes.
Cooper Rush filled in for a couple of games, and that
except the opposite, though, right? They're sort of the opposite. Or do you mean that they let Cooper Rush go in and fail?
They let him become what he was.
Right.
He had a very good couple of games at the beginning of the season. Then, the shine came off that penny real quick.
And then there was no controversy.
What they did was they named Dak, Monday. Dak's the starter. He'll be starting against the Jaguars. Came in, didn't do that well against the Jaguars. No, I'm sorry. That was the Giants. I'm looking at the Giants. Whoever the Cowboys faced last week. Didn't have a good game. I think he drew two or three interceptions, but they stuck with him. They proved that they let him know that he is the guy, and there's no question about it. And that's where the Patriots screwed up. But going back to the Cowboys, they're still the Cowboys. They're still going to be a good team. They're going to shit their pants in the postseason probably. But until then, they're going to be up there in the upper echelon of the team. Jerry Jones loves paying for great regular season wins.
I think that there's a little bit of a fact emerging in Dallas, though. Like it or not, I think that their offensive coordinator might be lacking in his creativity and his ability to put together a really good offense around the players that he has. But at the same time, there's guys like Zeke emerging back into kind of what they paid for. They are establishing a running game. And they're going to ride with Dak one way or the other. So what do you think, Joe, as essentially the guy with the perspective on the coaching staffs across the course of this podcast? What do you think? I mean, Kellen Moore, right? Is their offensive coordinator. And I think that, I've heard his name too often for an offensive coordinator to think anything good is going on at his job. So what do you think's going on there?
Bobby's right about Kellen Moore, and he's been saying it to us for two or three seasons now, that he's not the guy. He's not it. And I think he might at this point be right. I've always also been under the impression that Dak and Zeke are overrated. That's my personal feeling on those two players. Maybe that would be different if they had a better offensive coordinator. Maybe Kellen Moore isn't it. And I think Bobby's onto something there. Whether we've agreed with him or disagreed with him, I think this is a good time to point out those deficiencies because their defense is kind of doing the job for them right now. I mean, they won, what did they go, 3-1 with Cooper Rush? So, I mean, that was all defense. I mean, Cooper Rush managed the games, but he wasn't putting up, Dak Prescott numbers for a guy that I just said.
Dak Prescott at his best.
Right. Dak Prescott at his best for a guy that I just said was underrated. But we're looking at a defensive team. And this is why, I mean, Craig said at the end of the day, they could go into the playoffs and just get their, poop kicked in. I don't know. At 5-2, I do see them losing to the Giants. I think the Giants are just the better team, and I think they're the better coach team. I would see them. Have they played them?
They're definitely the better coach team. That's for sure.
Yeah. Have they played have those two teams played yet? No. I don't think they have. So they still have 2 games. So, I mean, I think the Giants either split or sweep that. And then, I would have Philadelphia towards the top of that division. And if some of these other NFC teams kind of start getting better, which I think will happen, and we see it with the Cowboys every year where they kind of flounder towards the end of the year.
No, sorry, they haven't played. They played. The Cowboys beat them 23-16.
Okay. All right. So in the second meeting, I would have the Giants beating them. And then I think there is a chance that the Cowboys could fall down out of the top 5 here. Of course, we kind of rate that on the top 14 because that's how many teams make the playoffs, but they could fall out. Something could happen here. We're again 7 weeks. This is kind of a good marker, as you said, Dave, but I don't know. I'm kind of like Bobby. I don't really trust any Cowboys teams, but I don't root for him. He does.
I guess we'll see a lot when they play the Bears this weekend. The Bears coming off a big win, looking like they can maybe do some damage against a good on-paper defense. We'll see. I think we'll know a lot about both those teams come the end of the week. I know where the smart money is, probably on Dallas, but I'm starting to believe, gentlemen. All right, moving on, and we're going to do what we usually do in these power rankings because the top 3 hasn't moved all year, which makes a lot of sense.
I told you, 15 minutes.
Since I have a new, cast of characters here, relatively new, I'm going to do what I started doing with you and Bobby Joe a few weeks ago, which is I'm going to ask you to pick your either the Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs as your AFC team. And explain to me why. And then we're going to go on and you're going to talk to me about where they are against the Eagles if a potential Super Bowl happened between these, 2 of these top 3 teams. So I'll start with you, Joe. Where you told me you were Kansas City last time I think we talked to you. And is that still the case, or do you see some deficiencies emerging in the Kansas City world?
I actually see their deficiencies going away. I see them getting better as a football team, and they're already a good football team. I think they're starting to iron out some of the issues that they may have had at the beginning of the year. They did just trade for Kadarius Toney on Thursday. I don't know how good this kid is because he hasn't been around long enough, but
I don't know how much it's going to matter, to be honest.
I don't know how much it's going to matter either, but I mean, it's a good punt, Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, this is kind of what they do. They bring guys in, and they clearly can succeed without Tyreek Hill. They have a nice 2-headed monster in the backfield in Edwards-Helaire and Pacheco. They still have number 15 back there, Craig.
Huh?
They Craig, number 15, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, that guy.
He's still playing, Craig.
Thanks, he's still playing. Now that said,
you're not allowed to make fun of me.
Now that said, the Buffalo Bills are a wagon, and I still believe that. I still believe they're a wagon. They're a good football team. Their running game has gotten better.
They won the head-to-head.
They won the head-to-head. Their passing game has not gotten worse. and you keep saying it, I'm big on the coaches. I like Sean McDermott. Andy Reid is the best head coach.
Hold on. Andy Reid's the best head coach out of the top 3 teams. Like, we're all agreed on
that. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I think, and I'll tell you what I think about the other coach on the other side. But I have Kansas City winning that matchup again. Like, if this was the AFC Championship, Kansas City.
I personally think it's bad that they played a game like that in the regular season for the Bills. Like, it reminds me, you remember the 16th game of the season against the Giants that the Patriots like shouldn't have tried so hard. Like, maybe they should have just taken the 15-1 season.
Well, it happened to them against the Jets in the 2 seasons. I think
that Andy Reid knows to not show his whole playbook in that game. I think that the Buffalo Bills did everything they could to win that game, and I think that gave the basically the biggest scare that the Kansas City Chiefs have in the AFC in the Buffalo Bills. It gave them a little bit of a radar on them. And I think that we're going to see that because I've seen that theme so many times. And when these two big teams collide, they have a close game, but maybe one coach kept a couple of things a little bit closer to his chest, because you can take that 1L in the regular season, because when it's going to matter is if you meet head to head in the probably the AFC Championship game, I think, with the way that their seasons are going. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's just you're talking about margins at the top, right? Once you're talking about margins at the top, they're very, very small. If somebody was to sit here and make an argument to me that if you bottled the talent of Josh Allen and you bottled the talent of Patrick Mahomes, that the Josh Allen bottle would be a little bit more full. I mean, I wouldn't agree with them, but I would see where they were coming from. You know, like, the guy has a lot of things. He's essentially the new prototype of an NFL quarterback. But I've seen Patty do it. You know, I've seen him do it when it matters. So to me, he's always going to be the guy until that changes. So, Craig,
if you had so much fun though, because those two guys.
Yeah, it's great. It's a new era of rivalry. I mean,
so different.
You know, we grew up. We now look at it as so lucky to see the rivalries at quarterback and the big teams that we saw play against each other. Like, the big quarterbacks when we were kids, being the Tom Brady's, the Peyton Manning's, the Ben Roethlisberger's, the Aaron Rodgers a little bit later, the Brett Favre a little bit earlier. You know, the fun ones in there like Mike Vick, the Steve McNair, you know, like these rivalries emerging in the new generation is really cool to watch, I think, and to see what are essentially emerging as the two best guys, because as much as like the Philadelphia Eagles are fun to watch, I'm not sure you can really put Jalen Hurts in the conversation with Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen at this point.
Not yet.
But not yet. I mean, not ever, probably. But if you, if it's just me, that's just me. But Craig, so you got 2 AFC juggernauts. One's won the head-to-head. Me and Joe are over here agreeing that it's still the Chiefs. What do you think? Are you on Team Dave and Joe, or do you think you have an alternate point on the Buffalo Bills being the emerging talent in the NFC this year?
I just think the Buffalo Bills are so good across the board. I know what the Kansas City Chiefs are, and I know the Bills play in our division, but I just still feel like the Bills are up and coming, and I mean that in a good way. I'm not saying the Chiefs are bad, but ultimately I think those teams are so good. I think they're so even keeled. It really ultimately comes down to who has the home game.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, sure. I think a lot of people are putting a lot of onus on the fact that the Bills rode into what's probably the hardest stadium to go into right now in the NFL and win a game. And they went into Arrowhead and they won. I think that's a really different proposition in the playoffs. And it's a really, really different proposition in an AFC Championship game, which is more than likely where these two teams are going to meet. Who do you think is going to get the home field advantage then? Because it sounds like you're saying the Buffalo Bills need it in order to get to a Super Bowl.
The Chiefs,
tough.
It's tough because I feel like it's these teams are just so close. It's really so they have they're stacked at pretty much every position. It's pretty much a wash. It's pretty, we've been saying that
for
coach
weeks. Maybe I don't, I mean,
head coach is, if
I think Andy Reid is the best head coach of the top 3 in this top 3. Andy Reid
but there's also something to be said for what he looks like in the playoffs. He does tend to come up short, despite
and he did with the Eagles for so many years. But he does have a Super Bowl with Kansas City. I think he kind of washed some of that away. I think sometimes that's just going to happen. I mean, Andy Reid right now is the best coach in the NFL.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right now, he's the best coach in the NFL. And I think Sean McDermott.
Let me tell you a little something about a man named Eberflus.
He'll get. I still got to tell you, and I don't want to keep going back to it, and I don't want to pump up your tires too much. But as disappointing as that game was from a Patriots standpoint on Monday night, knowing you, being on this podcast with you, talking to you every day, it was really encouraging to see that kind of a game plan and have
totally.
the balls to just go out and attack one of the greatest coaches of all
That's
time.
the only way to beat Bill Belichick. I mean, the unfortunate reality is that Doug Peterson put that fucking plan to paper. As much as that guy's a douche, the only way to beat Bill Belichick is to beat him in his own game and go at him head to head.
Yep, without a doubt.
He's a 7-year-old man. Just push him.
Poor fucking guy.
Well, yeah, but see, here's the problem. So is Andy Reid.
Yeah. I feel like Andy Reid's made some sternish stuff though. He's a big dude. So the theme of taking these top three as a top three over the past few weeks when we've been doing this power ranking show has been whoever comes out of the AFC is the champion. All three players in this podcast seem to agree on that. Does anyone think that at this point now the 6-0 Eagles are beating either the Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs in a Super Bowl? Craig,
are the Eagles going to beat the Chiefs or the Bills? I really don't think so.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either.
I want. There's a part of me that wants to say yes, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, this could be a fun clip to play back when they're the Super Bowl champions.
Could.
But Joe, do the Philadelphia Eagles beat either the Bills or the Chiefs? I mean, if they get the next AFC team on the list, I think they're Super Bowl champions. But do they beat either the Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs right now in a Super Bowl, prime time, primest of times, the most watched show in America? Do they win that game?
No. I think they're the best team in the NFC right now. There's only 4 teams in Bobby's top 10, and that's actually pretty close across the board.
Actually, 10.
With all of the what did I say?
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
What?
Don't worry about it.
You just threw me all off, Craig. You know what, man? What's wrong with you? It's your birthday, and you just think you can do whatever you want. Philadelphia Eagles aren't beating either one of those teams, and I actually disagree with you, Dave. I think if the New York Jets met the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl, the New York Jets would be your Super Bowl champions. I do. I think
see that happening.
I don't see right now. I am where they're 6-0, so I'm not at the same place I was with Zach Taylor that I am with Nick Sirianni. But I think Nick Sirianni is actually a fraud. I don't think he's a good NFL head coach. I think right now they're rolling. I think they have the personnel. I think they've made the wise roster moves. I think they've put the best players on the field that can fit with the other best players on the field. Their defense is really good. They're a good football team. I just don't see Nick Sirianni having it in him to beat Buffalo or Kansas City in a Super Bowl. And I think Robert Saleh would beat him out too.
And here's the thing I'm looking at. They're 6-0 right now. The only time they've scored over 30 points is opening week against the Lions. And then I look at the record.
The schedule, I've been saying it.
It's the schedule.
I've been saying it.
I just looked at it and I was dumbfounded. So they beat the Lions. They blew them out, but they also gave up 35 points in that game as well. They beat the Vikings. Great. Blew out the Commanders.
This is my whole point about the Eagles all year. This has been my whole point.
So then the Jaguars, the Cardinals, and the Cowboys, which was a good win. But then just look at the schedule.
That's a divisional win, though, so you got to take that with a grain of salt.
Sure. But then just look at the schedule going forward. They got the Steelers this week.
They'll win.
Then the Texans. The Commanders.
They'll win that.
Then the Colts.
They'll win that.
Packers.
They might lose that.
Titans.
They might lose that. They match up kind of badly against the Titans, but they could potentially be like 12-0 by the time we're at this point,
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like undeniable because of their record. But this has been my whole point. Every week for the past 6 weeks, we've done this power ranking show, and I've said, what happens when the number 1 team on the power rankings meets either the 2 or the 3 team in the biggest game of the season? And no one, including the man who makes the fucking power rankings himself, has been able to look me in the eye and tell me that they win that game.
I can't.
So right now, the Eagles are the number 1 team in the NFL, and I don't necessarily believe that because 100%. They're undefeated.
I'm not saying they should be. I'm not saying they shouldn't be number 1. What I'm saying is, and I'm not even saying that they're not the number 1 team in the NFL if tested. I'm not even saying they're not that. I'm saying they haven't been. So it's important to remember that there's definitive flaws built in on paper to this Eagles team. They're completely untested when it comes to huge games against elite teams. And I think there's a world in which they play either the Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs, and they get fucking blown out. It's like these are two teams that are so good, and they're so good. Why? Because they play really good teams all the fucking time, and they win.
Play to win the game.
Yeah. And on that note, I think we can walk away. But go ahead, Joe.
Just one more thing on
Sure.
Eagles team, and it's not necessarily a defense or against Bobby here or you either.
No,
And
it's
I
not
just
his
say-
fault. He has to
no.
put them at number one. They
No,
are number one.
But this is what I'm going to say, because he doesn't have to put him number one, because in 2020, when the Steelers were undefeated and they remained undefeated and they started 11-0, he had them at number one.
Too.
but he had them at number one once. So what I'm saying is, it's like, just in the context of football, I don't think he's wrong here.
I will just say, like, you think that there's probably more of a chance that they're not frauds than a team that seem to make everybody really mad, which I get great enjoyment out of. But I think that when you Philadelphia Eagles team, like, there's probably a higher percentage chance that they are legitimately this good. They are 6-0 good than that Steelers team. So I get it. For me, if I was making these power rankings, which I don't, so it doesn't matter, I just host the show. The Kansas City Chiefs would be number one. That would still be true of me. But like Bobby told me, he admitted it. He said the quiet part out loud. He was like, "That's boring." So that's why we have this. And honestly, it's an easier thing to talk about. It's an easier topic to talk about when you have it like this. So it's great.
Which is funny, Dave, because I have the Kansas City Chiefs, like, in the realm of right now. I have the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl, and yet I would have the Bills. I would have the Bills number one. So
yeah, I mean,
those three teams are still my top three, just not in the order that Bobby has them.
Not to bring down the whole house of cards, but that's why the power rankings cease to matter once the games start to matter a little bit more. So, on that note, on the power rankings show, no, I mean, I love that we have these. I love that we're keeping track of it, and I love that we have a show built around it, because I think it's a lot of fun to talk about who the best, who the worst, and who the also rans are in the NFL. And it's a really difficult season to make a power rankings, like we said, because there's a ton of parity teams that
That's
are
one
good.
of those smart people words.
There's teams that are supposed to be better. There's teams that are supposed to be worse. And it turns out supposed to be doesn't mean anything when you enter an NFL season. It only is what is. So
just because you put periods at the end of a sentence doesn't mean that it's fact.
Yeah, that's very true. But at least it means it's grammatically correct. So you can go off that. But unless it deserved a semicolon or perhaps a comma. So for Joe Malkin, Craig D'Alessandro, and myself, I wish you all a wonderful week of NFL football, and we'll see you at the same time next week. Thanks so much for listening.
Hi, I'm Sherilyn Fenn from Twin Peaks. What did you do on your last Saturday night?
Did you hear something?
Toilet paper.
There's none. Nada. The reserves have gone dry. People are hoarding it. I should have done that.
They're all out of hand sanitizer at my Target.
Mark, when did you last watch the news?
We are getting reports of forced quarantines in China, Japan, and now Italy.
You're cutting onions in half and putting them around your apartment.
Yes, exactly. It kills the COVID.
Excuse me?
Let's go. Let's go. Get in.
Vamos, rápido!
Have you ever driven one of these?
Never.
I'll drive, ladies.
I've got the keys.
Excuse me, I'm lost. I'm looking for my wife. I got turned around.
Join me, Eric Roberts, Jennifer Elise Cox, and Ed Asner for The Last Saturday Night, an Electrocast podcast. You'll love it. Electrocast. Electrocast.